Welcome back to Talking Points, where we dive into the world of investing and teach you the tips and tricks of creating an effective and protected portfolio. Now, as you may know, our core focus is creating the correct structures and using property and gearing to grow and expand your portfolio. Now, each week I'm joined by an expert in their field to give us a little bit more information about investments, structures, and today is no different. We're going to be looking at some of the important things to consider when you are setting up your trust structure. And if you're familiar with the Wealth Masters Club and the way we do things, then you'll know that we specialize in the creation and administration of specialized trust, which will protect your assets, avoid death costs in your passing, and ensure that your investment portfolio will continue without loss for generations to come once you do pass on. So this means that the legacy you create today will benefit your future generations long after you are no longer there. But the most crucial thing to remember here is that not every trust structure is created equal. Now, at the Wealth Masters Club, we've been in operation since 2003, and our products and specialists have stood the test of time for almost 20 years already. Now, please let us know in the comments below if you are aware of the powers that a correct trust structure has in terms of protection of your investments and your assets. Right, so today I'm joined by one of Treasury Trust Services trust experts who's going to tell us a little bit more about choosing the beneficiaries for your trust. So Jonique, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and sharing a little bit more information.
Good day, Damien. Thank you so much for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Now, Jonique, last week you wrote an article that looked at the beneficiaries of a trust and the do's and don'ts. So can you just tell us a little bit more about, in terms of the choosing of beneficiaries and why choosing a beneficiary is so important to your trust or to your trust structure?
Well, Damien, a trust is created for the benefit of beneficiaries. So the short answer to this question would be that a trust would not be able to exist without beneficiaries, as only beneficiaries can benefit from a trust. So therefore, beneficiaries is an essential object of a valid trust because the founder places the trust assets under the control of the trustees to be administered for the benefit of the beneficiaries. So therefore, it is important to choose beneficiaries wisely, so that it reflects a specific family circumstance or the intention of the founder. And also, therefore, the trust document should promote these specific intentions.
Now, in your article, you also stress the importance of naming beneficiaries by class instead of by name. So can you just tell us a little bit about what that actually means by naming them by class instead of by name, and why is that so important for your structure?
Yes. So the reason that we suggest that beneficiaries is named by an identifiable class, for example, the siblings of or the descendants of, is because a class of people creates a wider range or spectrum of beneficiaries compared to where a specific person is named, and then the trust ends with that specific person. In other words, creating a class of people as beneficiaries prevents a situation where the beneficiaries of a trust might run out easily, and which could result in the trust assets being forfeited to government. And also, of course, naming beneficiaries as an identifiable class makes, from an administrative point, would be much easier than if you would mention a beneficiary by name.
And let's talk just a little bit about the implications there that you mentioned. If you do decide to name the beneficiaries by name, what would the implications or even the requirements be for that?
Okay, well, the compliance processes in terms of the Financial Intelligence Center Act, it would be a lot more complicated when mentioning the beneficiaries by name. And this also refers to when you name another trust as a beneficiary, Here also we suggest that the trust be mentioned as an identifiable class. For instance, any trust established for the benefit of any beneficiary mentioned in the trust, compared to naming the trust, because each person mentioned by name in the trust would have to apply for FICA clearance. And in the instance of naming a trust as beneficiary, it could get even more complicated, because each trustee or beneficiary of the trust mentioned might also have to be FICA. So that is why that would be the implications of mentioning beneficiaries by name, or mentioning a trust by name, as to mentioning it in an identifiable clause.
Now, Jonique, in terms of the beneficiaries that are within a trust, do they have any power or say for that trust?
To an extent, yes. Specifically, or more specifically, when it comes to the trust deed amendments. In terms of the chief directive, or the chief master's directive, where beneficiaries have to be included in a trust deed amendment, where the trust deed itself stipulates that beneficiaries should be included. Where a trust deed stipulate that the involvement of the beneficiaries is not needed, the trustees do not have to include the beneficiaries. But where an amendment clause states that certain provisions of the trust deed cannot be changed by the trustees, the consent of the beneficiaries would be needed, because those specific provisions the trustees are prohibited from changing on their own. Also, where the trust deed is silent on the involvement of beneficiaries in a deed amendment or deregistration or termination of the trust, the Chief Master's Directive and our South African case law states that we beneficiaries have received benefits prior to a specific amendment, or upon the date of the amendment, then those specific beneficiaries would have to be included in the decision making of amending the trust deed or terminating and deregistering the trust.
Fantastic. And the last question I've got, again, just talking a little bit more about the beneficiaries. Once someone has been named a beneficiary of a trust, can that be changed? Can we get a new trustee or a new beneficiary on? And what does that process entail?
Yes, Damien. It is possible to change the beneficiaries in the trust, and this would take place in the form of also, obviously, a trust deed or a clause amendment, which will have to be submitted at the Master of the High Court to be noted and to be placed on record. Again, as previously mentioned, where a beneficiary has received distributions previously, according to case law and the Chief Master's Directive, they would have to be included in the amendment, unless obviously the trustee specifically states otherwise. So in saying that, it should be noted that removing a beneficiary in such an instance might become a complex process, due to the fact that beneficiaries who have received distributions will have to consent to the clause amendment.
Fantastic. Jonique, thank you so much for your time and sharing the knowledge that you shared with us today. Now, of course, for those at home, this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to understanding trusts, the setup and the administration, and so much more. So if you want to find a little bit more about what this actually entails, how we use trust and why we use trust to invest in property, then register for our free online training taking place this weekend. Just use the links in the description below and you will be registered. But that is it. Our time is up for this week. And if you like the video, go check out our playlist on YouTube. Just search for Wealth Masters TV, and there you will get a heap more videos to turn you into a successful investor. So Jonique, once again, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you for having me, Damien. Stay well.
Thanks, everybody. Until next week. Bye-bye.